All right, we're on lesson 3.6. What if I gave you a line right here, and then I gave you a point, and then obviously that point's not on the line. Do you agree? All right, so if I have a point not on the line, and I wanted to find the distance between this point and this line, and I told you to come up here and draw the distance. Okay, just grab pass. All right, if I told you to give me the distance, for instance, I'll tell you what. Let's not even do the dot right now. Let's do this. Well, it's fine. You can keep the dot there if you want. You don't have to draw this next part. All right. All right. Don't make fun of my airplane. There's my airplane. Look at that. That's a cool looking airplane. So, all right. And there's where the cockpit is. That's the glass on there. Okay. You can't see him. It's a
Hamrick Airlines.
yeah, Hamrick Airlines. HA. All right. So anyway, they're tinted windows. You can't see the people inside. Okay. All right. So it's tinted. See how tinted it is. All right. All right. Quit playing around. Here we go. You're in an airplane, and the pilot, who's flown on an airplane with a pilot and all that. I mean, hopefully you had a pilot, but like a commercial airplane, and they get on there, and when you're up in the air, the guy talks to you, right? And he's like, I don't know. They all sound the same. I think it's the same guy saying the same message every time, and he says, "Oh, welcome aboard Hamrick Airlines. Thanks for flying with us. It's going to be sunny and 95 when we get down, whatever." And then they say, we'll be cruising at an altitude of 30,000 feet. Okay? And what does that mean when it says cruising at an altitude of 30,000 feet? What is it? Is it from here to here? Is that the distance they're talking about? No. Is it the distance from where you took off from? No. Is it some... Oh, wow. Look at that. Is it some wiggly distance like this? No. What is it? Okay, we're in geometry class. We're not going to say straight up and down. What are we going to say? We're going to say perpendicular, okay? That's what you meant, isn't it, when you said straight up and down? So if I talk about the altitude of this airplane to the ground, this is the ground. I'm talking about a perpendicular distance. Would you agree? All right, because if I said from here to here or here to here, they're all different lengths. I got to be consistent, have the same length. So when I talk about the altitude of an airplane, I'm talking about the perpendicular distance. Follow me? Okay. The same thing holds true when you have that point. Now, Eric, we're going to use that point that you drew.
Yes.
Okay, so there you go. So there's a point right there. If I asked you to draw the distance from a point to this line right here, how would you draw that distance? Would you draw it from there to there? No, that would be silly, wouldn't you? Would you draw it like to the end point of that line? No, that's not the distance. What is it? It's from the point, what? Not straight down, what would we say? Perpendicular, right. Perpendicular to that line. I know what you mean when you say straight down. I understand what you're saying, but we want to say it correctly. We want to say perpendicular. Because look, if I went from here to here, that's a straight line, isn't it? That's straight, but it's not straight down. I know what you're thinking, but this is perpendicular. So the distance from a point to a line is the perpendicular distance. You with me? Let's do this. Look at that. See, I made that when you were taking the quiz. All right, there you go. Here's a question they're going to ask you. This is basically all they're going to ask on this homework. It's really actually pretty simple. Let me change this to a different color so that. All right. So watch. It says construct the segment that represents the distance from A. What is A? It's point A, right? All right. To what? Line segment BC. So if I wanted to construct the distance from point A to point BC, then I would start at A and draw a line segment. What? Would I draw it to C? Would I draw it to B? Would I draw it somewhere in between? I would draw it 90 degrees or what? Perpendicular. Exactly right. Okay, perpendicular to line BC. Now, have I drawn it perpendicular?
You don't know that.
You don't know. Why don't you know? There's no little box. That's right. So would this be correct if that's what I put as an answer? No, it would not. What would you need? that little box right there that represents that it's perpendicular, that it's 90 degrees. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, that's it. Okay, that's basically the homework, is to just draw a perpendicular line from the point that they give you to the line segment that they tell you to draw it to. It's pretty easy stuff. I told you it would be, didn't I? Now, they don't put this on the worksheet that I'm going to give you, but I do want to talk about this real quick. We're not going to do any math with it. I just want you to be able to draw it if I needed to. So watch. I copied and pasted those two lines. So tell me something that must be true about those two lines.
Parallel.
They're parallel to each other. Now watch. What if I said I want to find the distance between these two parallel lines? Okay. So I got to start somewhere, right? Let's say I start right here. If I want to find the distance from this line to this line, would I draw from here to here? Is that the distance? Would I draw from like to the end point? Would I draw to this end point? No. How would I draw it? I draw it so it's what? So it's perpendicular. Now I just have to eyeball this. So it's perpendicular to the other line. Would you agree?
Yes.
So that would be the distance between those two lines. So if I have two parallel lines, the distance between them is that perpendicular distance. Does it make sense? All right, because look, if I said find the distance and you went from here to here, I mean, somebody else might have drawn it to here. Somebody else might have drawn it to here. So we got to be consistent, don't we? We got to draw it from this point to the line, but we have to draw it so it's perpendicular. Make sense? Okay. What if we had this? What if we had two lines that were not perpendicular? Okay, those are obviously not perpendicular, wouldn't you say? If they're not perpendicular, and I said, okay, let's go here. Let's find the distance between these two non-perpendicular lines. Where would you draw it? Perpendicular? But look, if I draw that, and I draw that perpendicular, okay, it's still perpendicular, right? But look, actually that wasn't perpendicular, was it? It wasn't very perpendicular. Let's do about like there. There we go, that's perpendicular. But look at that line, and look at that line right there. They are congruent? Yeah, but we haven't talked about similar. But look, is this line and this line the same? Is the distance between here and here, even though it's perpendicular, is that distance the same as that distance? No. So can you find one distance between two non-perpendicular lines? Not one distance, not a consistent distance, can you? Because look, from here to here is going to be a completely different distance than it is from here to here. Would you agree? So I can't say find the distance between two lines if they're not parallel to each other. They have to be parallel to each other. So that was kind of like a trick question. All right? You can't really find the distance, one consistent distance between two non-parallel lines. Okay? You can find it between two parallel lines right here. Now, we don't even know these are parallel until what? We put the little arrows on here. Okay? But what are we doing? We're not even doing this. Not in here. Let me just get rid of all this mess. What we're going to be doing is giving you this. I give you the triangle, ABC or whatever it is, and I say, okay, start at some point and construct the segment that represents the distance from this point to this line. This red line in that little box, that's your answer. You got it? There's no math involved. There's no figuring anything out. There's just drawing a line. Now look, don't do this. Now look, I know I have a little computer program and it makes it kind of easy, but you guys can use a straight edge. Okay, it's not that difficult. There's not that many problems to do. Use some kind of a straight edge. You could use a ruler if you wanted to. You could take another sheet of paper, fold it in half. You could take your calculator, right, and use that as a straight edge. But don't just do this. Look, I don't want you just to say, okay, this. Actually, I'm sorry. That was straight because I used a ruler. I meant to use my pen. Why? Don't just do this. All right, that looks sloppy, don't you think? All right, let's try to be nice and neat on this. So you can use a straight edge. So my straight edge is my rule thing, my rule line thing. And so I can make a nice straight line, and then you make your perpendicular. Use a straight edge yourself, okay? Use a ruler, use a sheet of paper, fold it in half, right? It makes it a little thicker. You can run your pencil around that. So make sure that this line looks half decent. You with me? All right, so that's basically all you're doing. Pretty simple, all right? Let me give you a worksheet on this, and then that's it. Now, tomorrow, listen to me. Tomorrow, you know what? Hold on just a second. Yeah, I'm giving you this worksheet. We are finished chapter 3 now. With this lesson 3.6, we're finished chapter 3. So tomorrow, I'm not going to be here. I'm shooting a wedding tomorrow. Shooting a wedding. I think I've talked about that already, haven't I? What's that? Ms. T.S. is going to be our teacher. Say nice things because you're being recorded. All right. So anyway. Yeah, good. So anyway, I'm not going to be here, but I'm going to give you an assignment. Listen, please. And it's the chapter review at the end of the chapter. What it does, it's going to cover basically the whole chapter. All right. So it's going to be a review for the test. So we'll probably take the test maybe late next week, maybe like Thursday of next week. All right. So we'll have some days to review. All right, and we'll do it Thursday. We'll take the corrections on Friday, and then we'll be done the test at the end of the week, next week. Okay. All right. Everybody good with that? All right. I am going to give you a worksheet today. All right.